Good morning.
Good morning.
Yay! That's how to do it. You did it even better than me. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. I want to begin, as always, by embracing all that you bring with you to this space, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, everything that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes those of you who are in the room with us, whether you're here frequently or joining us for the first time, you're equally as welcome. And those of you who are streaming with us and Zooming with us as well this morning, great to have all of you. Knowing that you're here too is very special for our service, so thanks so much to everybody for being here. I do have a few things I want to go over this morning. Firstly, you'll notice our unity candle is out the front of our sanctuary. This is something we do when one of our members has recently passed away, and I'm sorry to let you know, if you haven't heard already, that church member Phil Rodriguez passed away on the 21st after a long struggle with cancer. Phil's celebration of life will be held here at 4 p.m. on Saturday, October 15th. We'll put that out in other publications as well, so you'll know. But he was a great guy. He left us too soon, and we're going to miss him. And I want you to please keep his wife, Barbara, who's here with us this morning, in your hearts and your entire family at this time, who I know are grieving a great loss. I also want to take just an extra minute or so to welcome those of you who are Zooming with us this morning. It's always great to know you're here. Todd's going to put you guys up on the screen where we can see you, and I'd love to. We won't be able to do this every Sunday, especially as our Zoom attendance grows, but it's nice to get you to introduce yourselves. Looks like we have quite a good number of folks on today. So, Terry, why don't you start and let us know where you're from, and then we'll get some of the others, if you're willing, to introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name is Terry Anderson, and I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and I had the pleasure of going to Spokane and attended a service with you last fall, and I couldn't get enough of it, so here I am back virtually. So I think that'll be enough for myself. I know Robert Gaines has not got audio, so he won't be able to say hello, and Mike doesn't have video, but he is calling, so why don't you say hello, Mike?
Yeah, I'm beginning to feel like an old hand at introducing myself. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and plan to be with you guys every Sunday. That's about all I've got.
Okay, thank you. And Mary?
Hi, I'm here just waking up in Vancouver. One of the wonders of Zoom is being able to drink your coffee in church, and I enjoy Todd's services, and I hope there's puppets involved today.
Okay, and Dick?
I'm here in Seattle and feeling good after a week of COVID.
Oh.
My wife came down with it, and then I caught it from her, but we're back in the scene again, and it was interesting. I just had my booster shot about 3 or 4 days before I got the COVID. And then I found out sometimes it takes a week or two to take effect.
Oh dear.
My wife, she didn't realize she could get Pfizer booster. The Moderna first boosters weren't out yet. So now they say, well, once you've had the COVID, wait 4 months before you get another booster. The COVID does the booster itself.
Yeah, right.
Oh, this wasn't too bad this time. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm glad you recovered. Leslie, go ahead.
Well, here I am in Port Townsend up on the Olympic Peninsula on the other side of the state from where y'all are, and really enjoying being able to zoom into UU churches that are remaining in liberal position. And so thank you for your service.
Good. And then Stephen, that's the first time to join us, but a long time streamer. So.
My name is Stephen Palmer. I'm coming to this Zoom meeting from Wood, Connecticut, possibly the greatest distance, I'm not quite sure. I've been a Unitarian since age 17, and I've been watching actually through the YouTube the services at UUC Spokane for probably about a year now, and so I was really enthusiastic and happy to find out that I could participate by Zoom. So thank you very much for having me.
Great, thanks. And JP?
Hi, everyone. I'm JP. I'm a friend of Terry's, and I'm out of Edmonton as well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, and as I said, Robert doesn't have audio, so back to you, Todd.
Great. Thank you all so much for being such a delight to have you here and to be able to interact a little bit with the congregation so that we really get the sense of your presence with us. And just a special welcome to all of you. But Dr. Palmer, thank you so much for the letter you sent me last week. It was very meaningful, and it's great to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, speaking of Zoom, next week we're going to try something very exciting that we have not done before, and we're going to have a guest speaker via our Zoom room. And that is my friend and my colleague. Some of you have probably heard of him, Reverend Craig Morrow, who is over in the Portland area. And Craig has a real special interest in familiarity with the Islamic faith, including understanding many of its languages. He's going to be speaking on enduring the ridiculous, and he's going to be drawing upon the Sufi poet Rumi, the Quran, Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses, and other heretical writings some of you may be familiar with. So I'm going to actually be here leading that service, and hope that you'll join us in person or on Zoom or on our live stream for that very special service. All right, let's do, I know that was a little bit longer than usual this morning, but I'd love it to give you guys a little chance to greet one another this morning, so feel free to take a few moments to say hello to each other.
Only get Todd to
Right, most of you sat down before I was ready today. But Barbara, thanks for letting me know I made an error. I said that Phil's celebration of life is going to be at 4. It's at 2, actually 2 to 4, so on Saturday, October 15th. So put that on your calendars if you will, please. We're going to move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening reflection is a poem I wrote inspired by the image of artist Georgia O'Keeffe that I saw on a postcard of her looking out at the New Mexico landscape. It begins with an epigraph, a quotation I found on the postcard, and I entitled the poem Postcard Wisdom. And the quote is, "An artist is someone who finishes things." Anonymous. An artist is someone who finishes things, and I know that Georgia O'Keeffe, gazing out her studio window at the endless New Mexico horizon, was compelled to paint those bison skulls and enlarged flowers because she needed to finish some conversation within herself about bones and dust, stamen and petal, sky and cloud, in a symmetry of beautiful relationship. But until we view her art, it remains unfinished, for in looking at it, we each renew this conversation within ourselves, and beauty continues to ask interesting questions.
Our first in-service hymn of the morning is With Heart and Mind, is number 300 in your hardback gray hymnals, or you can access our screen for the words. Please stand as you're willing and able. With heart and mind and voice and hand, may we this time and place transcend to make our purpose understood, a mortal search for mortal good, a firm commitment to the goal of justice, freedom, peace for all. A mind that's free to seek the truth, a mind that's free in age and youth, to choose a path no threat impedes, wherever light of conscience leads. Our martyrs died so we could be a church where every mind is free. A heart that's kind, a heart who search, makes love the spirit of the church, where we can grow and each one's gift is sanctified and spirits lift, where every door is open wide for all who choose to step inside.
We are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds. And we'll begin this morning, as we have been for some time, with the people of the Ukraine and the rest of that region of the world that are dealing with the terrible violence and destruction there. We'll kindle another candle for Barbara Rodriguez as she grieves the loss of her husband and partner, Phil. A candle for church member Al Toutant, who had a bad fall recently and is not doing well. Please keep him and Bernie and their entire family in your thoughts at this time. A candle for Eleanor Enns, whose son is in need of an organ transplant. Obviously, Eleanor is extremely concerned. A candle for Gil Murray, who has pneumonia and also is not doing so well at this time. And a candle for the people in Puerto Rico and Florida and other areas of the country and world whose lives have been devastated by recent hurricanes. Let's take a moment of silence as usual on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Your silver arrow with sky glow, and when it comes to pierce your heart, let it overflow. You can lay your head on me, I am strong like the willow tree, tall enough to reach the stars, and wide as the open sea. So come out, my bride one, we are walking home, hand in hand like kings and queens. We are walking home, we are walking home. An iris, white and blue, try to steal my eyes away, but I would not miss a moment of you. You can lay your head on me, I am strong like the willow tree, tall enough to reach the stars, and wide as the open sea. So come out, my bride one, we are walking home, hand in hand like kings and queens. We are walking home, we are walking home. The years will come and go, and all will dissolve, but the only thing I need is this love. Oh, the years will come and go, and all will dissolve, but the only thing I need is this love. We are walking home. We are walking home. Please we are walking home.
Thank you so much. Beautiful song, Stan, as you promised. And it's always so good to have you join us. Thank you so much for being here. Every time I see you, it's been too long. So I hope that it won't be as long next time. Yeah, but we get to hear more from you today, too. So good. All right, it's time for our story for all ages. So even though there are seldom children in our early service, I'm going to treat you all like a bunch of kids. Never like to tell a story alone, so got one of my friends here. Yes, this is my old friend Avery. Avery man. Avery, how's it going?
Well, pretty good. Still trying to figure myself out, though.
Still trying to figure yourself out. By that, you mean you're still looking for a job?
Well, not just any job.
No?
A job I like. A job I'm good at.
Well, not having much luck, I take it?
Nothing I try ever seems to work.
Well, let's see. Since I've known you, you've been a used car salesman.
Oh, it drove me crazy.
Well, you've worked at the Amazon Fulfillment Center.
It wasn't very fulfilling.
Yeah. And you were a celebrity impersonator.
It just wasn't me.
Well, last time you were here, you were working as an innovator, if I remember, and you'd invented an electric toolbox with some electric tools.
Well, I had to give that up, too.
Yeah? That was probably wise. I believe that hooking up electrical cords to normal tools is not a very bright idea.
Yeah, I learned the hard way from my last invention.
Well, what was that?
An electric toothbrush.
Tell me you did not hook up an electrical cord to your toothbrush.
I did.
And you did not plug it in and stick it in your mouth, did you?
Well, just for a few seconds. Hence the hairdo.
Okay, you really need to learn about how electricity works before you make any more electric tools. What else have you tried since we last saw you?
Well, I worked for a short time as a movie director.
A movie director? Well, that sounds fun. What kind of movies did you direct?
Action movies.
Action movies, that sounds exciting.
Well, not really. All I did was sit in a director's chair and say, action, action.
Okay, well, why didn't it work out?
Well, my cameraman quit right away.
Your cameraman quit, why's that?
Oh, I didn't have the camera.
So you were a movie director without a camera or without a camera operator?
Well, you've got to start somewhere.
You know, Avery, I'm convinced that you could be successful doing just about anything you wanted.
You'd say that even after the toothbrush incident?
Even after the toothbrush incident. But first you need to take the necessary time to learn what you need to know.
Well, how do I do that?
Well, to be good at anything, you need to learn how to do it through education, study, and lots of practice. And you certainly need the right tools, not homemade tools, but the real tools of the trade.
Well, that sounds like a lot of work for somebody who doesn't even have a job.
Well, nothing worthwhile comes easy, Avery. You have to work at it and take all the time that's necessary. If you really want to direct movies, you're going to need to take film classes and get a good camera to practice with.
Oh, I'm not interested in making movies anymore.
No?
I've decided I want to write books and become a famous author. Have any advice?
See you next time, Avery. Thank you.
Now is the time in our service for reflection or meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable, receptive posture. Take a few deep breaths as we enter this silence with these words written by me. Grace, born with the silver spoon of moonlight in our mouths, fed gold on the tongue of dawn each morning, nourished every moment on radiant air, we feast. Blessed with this bounty, we grow ever more full in gratitude.
Okay, I'm going to invite you to join me for a responsive reading this morning, number 652. Number 652 in the back of your gray hymnal. And I know those of you who are streaming with us or Zooming with us may not have hymnals, and I'm sorry at this time we can't put the wording up on the screen, but Deb is going to be at a microphone and she will read along with our respondents, so at least you'll be able to hear the entire text of this reading. This is number 652, entitled The Great End in Religious Instruction. I almost said destruction. That can be true sometimes too. But I'm going to start, and I'll ask the entire congregation to be our respondents this morning. The great end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own.
Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly and steadily with their own.
Not to give them a definite amount of knowledge, but to inspire a fervent love of truth.
Not to form an outward regularity, but to touch inward springs.
Not to bind them by irradical prejudices to our particular sect or peculiar notions.
But to prepare them for impartial, conscientious judging of whatever subjects may be offered to their decision.
Not to burden the memory, but to quicken and strengthen the power of thought.
Not to impose religion upon them in the form of arbitrary rules, but to awaken the conscience, the moral discernment.
In a word, the great end is to awaken the soul, to excite and cherish spiritual life.
I dreamt that I was born a girl, living alone in the world, passing the hours away. I looked into the face of sorrow, tempted by the taste of tomorrow and the scent of yesterday. I That was only the dream of a dream. This world is not what it seems. We are the wind that carries the seas. We are the roots of the banyan tree. We are love offered on the wing that stretches across eternity. We are recording life's symphony. We are the silent awakening. We are only the dream of a dream. This world is not what it seems. We are the wind that carries the seas. We are the roots of the banyan tree. We are love offered on the wing that stretches across eternity. We are recording life's symphony. We are the silent awakening. Dream that I could not find you, always was a step behind you, could not see your face. Wandering around the maze, illusion's dusty haze, soul with no resting place. That was only the dream of a dream. This world is not what it seems. We are the wind that carries the seas. We are the roots of the banyan tree. We are love offered on the wing that stretches across eternity. We are recording life's symphony. We are the silent awakening. We are only the dream of a dream. This world is not what it seems. We are the wind that carries the seas. We are the roots of the banyan tree. We are love offered on the wing that stretches across eternity. We are recording life's symphony. We are the silent awakening. And only love can lift the veil away. And I've traveled long and far just to come home to your grace. Hey, hey, hey. This world is not what it seems. We are the wind that carries the seas. We are the roots of the banyan tree. We are love offered on the wing that stretches across eternity. We are recording life's symphony. We are the silent awakening. We are only the dream of a dream. This world is not what it seems. We are the wind that carries the seas. We are the roots of the banyan tree. We are love offered on the wing that stretches across eternity. We are recording life's symphony. We are the silent awakening.
Thank you, Stanton. Thank you, Stanton. Thank you. Thank you, Stanton. Yeah, beautiful poetry, too. Thank you so much for your performance of that. So it's become a habit of mine to give a preaching to the preacher sermon at the start of each new year, and I missed doing so at the start of this year. So I've decided to do so today, before 2021 is no longer last year, but the year before. And I spoke about a variety of matters last year, in 2021, too many to even briefly touch upon in one sermon. So I'm going to stick to those that were most meaningful to me. As you may have heard me say a couple of weeks ago during my Freedom of the Pulpit sermon, my sermons usually reflect who I am and where I am at in my own journey, so it's good for me to look back and remind myself of where I've been and where I'm coming from. This is why I call this sermon Preaching to the Preacher, because I'm not up here to tell you what I already think I know, but what I'm myself discovering and reflecting upon. Obviously, the takeover and dismantling of our liberal religion is a major concern in my life these days, and has been for a number of years. But it is not even close to being all I ever talk about. Of nearly 40 sermons I gave in 2021, only one was specifically about the UUA. My October 17th sermon entitled Correction. Ours is a liberal religion, not a covenantal one. That year I also gave 2 sermons on liberalism in general, about its history and its values, in which I mentioned the Unitarian Universalist Association. These were titled How the West Was Lost, about the forces eroding liberalism throughout Western society, and The Good Facebook, about how what is said on social media has erroneously become like a Bible for many, an authority, that is, upon which to determine what is true. And that was it, just 3 sermons in 2021 mentioning the UUA. If I had realized this at the time, I would have spoken more about the matter, since it is so crucial to the survival of our liberal religion, including the survival of our own historic congregation. But as always, I have many things on my mind that I'm learning and wondering about, so as usual, my 2021 sermons were all over the place. In January alone, I gave sermons on how an atheist prays, on welcoming whistleblowers among us, and on the January 6th insurrection. In the following months, I spoke about rewiring the brain to see the positive, to better see the positive in the world, followed by a sermon on the many good things that had happened the year before in 2020, despite COVID-19 and so many other problems in the world, things we missed because of our pessimistic outlook. I gave sermons about the importance of having humor in our society, about the cost of higher education, about the social significance of Star Trek, and how genuine love overcomes the sadomasochistic tendency, about maintaining healthy community, and neoteny, the biological tendency of some species, including humans, to maintain juvenile characteristics throughout their lives, about becoming better through life's challenges, about the historical evolution of tolerance, about restorative justice, about the nature of unity, and about the tension between equality and freedom. One sermon focused on a Sufi parable, another about the historic significance of female computer programmers, another about the philosophy of abundance versus the philosophy of scarcity, or the mindset of scarcity, another about the history and vital success of vaccine science, another about Jesus' connection to nature, and another about stopping and reversing global warming, to name just a little of what I talked about in 2021. Again, I couldn't possibly go into much detail about the variety of subjects I discussed last year. But in looking back at all I discussed, I was reminded that at the start of 2021, we were still under lockdown because of the pandemic. Only key personnel and volunteers were allowed in our building during services, about 5 of us. For the first quarter of the year, we weren't even allowing guest speakers in our building. So we'd recommend recorded services from our archive on the Sundays that I was off. It wasn't until May of 2021 that we first began having guest speakers again, well after the mandates had lifted and everyone who wanted to be vaccinated had had an opportunity to do so, only a year and a half ago. Although things are a lot better now than they were then, the pandemic hasn't ended, as we heard from Dick Burkhart just a short while ago. I'm glad they're doing okay. We're still being asked to get new booster shots. The global supply chain has major kinks in it. Inflation is on the rise, and the global economy remains unstable, all in the aftermath of COVID-19. Additionally, our use of technologies allowing us to meet, work, learn, and visit remotely has skyrocketed and has permanently changed how we will continue to do these things and more. At our church, more people still choose to attend services on Zoom or via our live stream than to come in person. And this is unlikely to change, especially as the technology improves and we're better able to engage and interact with each other in our virtual meeting spaces. The takeaway, whether everyone likes it or not, is that this is the new way of doing things and will continue even when the pandemic finally ends. From this point onward, the continued success of most organizations, including churches, is going to involve how well they embrace, use, and keep up with this transformative technology. When I first started in Unitarian Universalist ministry only 23 years ago, many organizations, especially churches, still didn't even have websites. They required professional coders to construct, which could be costly for small nonprofits, and weren't yet absolutely necessary. But within just a couple of years, the yellow pages became obsolete, and everyone looking for information expected to find it on the internet. Today, we would not think about existing without an adequate website. Likewise, the churches of tomorrow, by which I mean the next couple of years, will not be able to exist without the adequate use of remote technologies and without developing rich experiences for distance and online members. Things will not be going back to how they were before the pandemic. It has forever changed how we engage with each other, and at the same time has empowered us to create community well beyond the confines of our brick and mortar buildings. Fortunately, I pride myself on being at the cutting edge of technology, which is why our congregation has already been streaming our services years before COVID-19. And I'm aware enough of the coming trends to help prepare us for what must come next, which is why several of my sermons in 2021 were about technology and why they were among my favorite and most meaningful. I particularly enjoyed learning about pink-collared hackers, which I discussed in a sermon subtitled The Surprising History of Female Programmers in the Computer Age. Computational thinking is ancient, and the first people to use it in modern times were called computers. When machines eventually came along that could make use of its principles, they were called mechanical computers to distinguish them from ordinary computers, which were humans, who used math to make complex calculations, and women were among the very first of them, some of whom turned out to be among the most important and significant people in the field. During World War II, the military utilized their skills to help break coded messages. According to MIT's book on computational thinking, the Army commissioned teams of human computers to work out firing tables for their big guns. One of the most well-known of these teams comprised of women working at Aberdeen Proving Grounds around 1940. And of course, the best picture of 2016, Hidden Figures, is also about three historic women and their previously unknown and central role in the success of NASA's early space program. Among them was Dorothy Vaughan, acting supervisor of the West Area Computers, referring to a group of African-American female mathematicians at NASA from 1943 to 1958, which was just one subset of hundreds of female computers working for NASA since World War II. The first mechanical computer, not electric but mechanical, was designed by Charles Babbage in the 1830s, but it was his female partner, Ada Lovelace, a brilliant mathematician, who figured out how to program his analytical engine by using punch cards, which became the standard method for programming computers for many years, including during the war. So the very first computer programmer in history was female. Lovelace also coined the term the science of operations and is known to this day for having helped establish the features that distinguish computational thinking from other kinds of thinking. I gave that sermon, as I said then, to celebrate the extraordinary contributions of thousands of brilliant women, thousands of hidden figures, if you will, during the past century who made our nation safer and our modern life better in many significant ways. And as a father of a wonderful young woman whom I'm extremely proud of, I want to inspire everyone, especially the women and the girls among us, by reminding you that you are as brilliant and as capable as anyone of accomplishing your dreams and doing great things for humanity. I love technology, as many of you know, and put many of my hopes for our future in our ability to use it to help overcome some of our greatest challenges. Technology is but an advanced form of tool making, and tool making is what our species does. As inventor futurist Ray Kurzweil has said, no other tool-using animal on Earth has demonstrated the ability to create and retain innovations in their use of tools. Thus, as a humanist, who by definition believes in the goodness, potential, and agency of humanity, I see technology, as destructive as it can be, as a force for good in the world, especially when it is driven by the humanistic ethic, which requires everything that we do to be in the service of human welfare and individual unfolding. I even gave a sermon last November about the most transformative technologies of that year, as mentioned earlier, including the gene editing tech known as CRISPR, which in 2021 was used to cure a particular form of blindness, as a means for treating arthritis, to block the coronavirus, and was approved for human trials testing a cure for HIV. I talked about the tremendous improvements in artificial intelligence technologies, AI, especially those involving and deploying autonomous vehicles. Starship Technologies used them to make over 1 million deliveries. Singapore became the first city to charge passengers to ride an autonomous bus, and China became the first country to allow driverless robotaxis. In the States, FedEx began driverless delivery vehicles. Domino's Pizza did so in Houston, Texas, and it was in 2021 that major automakers like Toyota, Hyundai, and Honda began investing big in autonomous vehicles. But the technology of the year had to be the vaccine technology that allowed science to deliver COVID-19 vaccines at breakneck speeds. In fact, I ended up giving an entire sermon on vaccines entitled Vaccination Nation, about the history of vaccinations, the science behind it, and how much it has done to improve our lives, child mortality rates, and our own lifespans. In the past, we would not have been able to develop a vaccine for COVID-19 for many years, but as I said in my sermon, in less than a year of the outbreak, we had several vaccines developed, not by rushing, but by using modern genomics to sequence the virus, modern communications to share information instantly with other scientists across the globe, machine learning that quickly searched articles for potential new drug combinations, computer databases that can predict outbreaks and help us respond before they worsen, along with new techniques to signal our own messenger RNA to create immune responses. In less than a year. As impressive as this is, my absolute favorite technology sermon of 2021 was Cool It, about the mounting number of new tools we can use to stop and even reverse global warming. Some that most excite me are those that can pull cold water up from the lower depths of the ocean, get them out in front of hurricanes and weaken the force of that hurricane, or as a buffer between glaciers and the warming seas. I also like the artificial lightning maker that can cause clouds to condense and make it rain, along with artificial trees that can capture a ton of carbon dioxide every day, an amount that living trees would take a lifetime to capture, to sequester. I also talked about the nonprofit ocean cleanups, technology that is successfully keeping plastic out of the oceans by stopping it where it starts in some of the major rivers of the world, and are in the process of cleaning up the great garbage patch. I mean, cleaning it up. Not just cleaning some of it up, but in the process of cleaning it up. And the incredible announcement of Elon Musk's $100 million X Prize to the team that comes up with the best carbon sequestering technology that demonstrates a working solution at a scale of at least 1,000 tons removed per year, model their cost at a scale of 1 million tons per year, and show a pathway to achieving a scale of gigatons per year in the future. That's a 4-year contest that will conclude in 2025, and with the largest incentive prize in history, it's guaranteed to get results. So people often ask me how I can maintain such a positive view of the future, given all that's going on in the world and the many challenges before us. My belief in humanity and the extension of humanity through our creation and use of tools is a major reason I stay so optimistic, which is also why I talk a lot about technology in my sermons. But I'm also an amateur student of brain science and have come to understand that our outlook is normally negative because our species is neurologically wired to be on the lookout for danger. That's the channel that our ancient biology is natively tuned to. Is there a tiger out there going to eat me? There are other channels we can watch that might give us a broader perspective of our reality, but the negative news channel is the one that our bodies and minds are naturally stuck on. But as I said in my February 21 sermon, Mindset, Rewiring Your Brain to See the Positive Things Happening Around You, we can train our minds to become less fearful by actively looking for the good in the world and seeing it in others. I hear people, side note, I often hear people talking about how frightened they are of other people in the world, of how negatively of human nature. And I say, how many of those humans do you know? We don't know any. Right? I mean, we know some, but we can stay away from them. But most of the people we know are good people, right? I mean, isn't that most of the people I'm around are good people. People I enjoy being around. They're not malicious, they're not malevolent, they're not selfish. They're not trying to destroy others to get everything for themselves. That's not the experience that I have. And when I ask other people, they say, yeah, that's not my experience either. Anecdotal, but why do we see human nature in such a negative light? Well, 2,000 years of a doctrine of original sin might have something to do with it. Let that stuff go. We can read books and magazines and news journals that intentionally report on the positive things happening in the world. Our biology may take eons to evolve, but as I say in this sermon, we can compensate for this by readily transforming our mindsets to see the world in bigger, brighter, and truer ways than we can otherwise imagine. This power is a gift of marvel of our existence that is too often squandered because of our fear of change. In other words, we are a species that has the power to evolve our minds within an individual's lifetime. We can't change our biology, but we can change our neurology. This is why several of my sermons last year were also philosophical in nature, to help us look at the world, at truth and meaning from new angles, especially from those that help us flip the fear channel to better programming. These sermons were too many and the principles too deep to get into now, especially as I should start wrapping up. So instead, I'm going to mention a few of the principles that are recurring in many of my sermons. Principles you will hear again, I'm guessing, in coming weeks and months, and that by now many of you may have come to recognize. First, the humanistic ethic requires that the sole criterion of all we do, technology, science, politics, legislation, education, criminal justice, economics, and so on, must be for human welfare and individual unfolding. This is the aim. 2, that the truth of the world is much larger and better than our pessimistic and fearful natures allow us to see, so don't let fear obscure your view. 3, that human beings are naturally good and have the desire and potential for doing good. 4, that our species can and will overcome our greatest challenges because there are already plenty of good people working on them. 5, all of us are at our best when we adhere to the Enlightenment principles that our society and our liberal religion is founded upon: freedom, reason, and tolerance. 6, don't be a pushover, because some things are worth fighting for. And fighting over. And finally, establish strong roots, then spread out everywhere while reaching for the sky. Establish strong roots, then spread out everywhere by reaching for the sky. As for what my sermons will cover in the coming months, I'm not sure yet, but I do know that you can expect more of the same. Thank you.
Well, our final song of the day is another Bob Dylan song. This one is called Forever Young, and it's been a while since I had read through the verses for this, but they are really wonderful. You will find the words up on the screen, or there's also a sheet inside your order of service. Please stand as you're willing, and Stanton is going to lead this one.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Great.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung, and may you stay forever young, forever young, forever young. May you stay always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young, forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy, may your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful, may your song always be sung, and may you stay forever young, forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. Yeah, great.
Our benediction is a poem by William Stafford entitled "The Way It Is." There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you can do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. Amen. Blessed be. Shalom aleikum and shalom.
Shalom.